The morning sun spilled over the high towers of the palace, casting long shadows across the marble floors and golden spires. Birds sang softly in the gardens, and the air was warm with the promise of spring. In the central courtyard, Princess Alara laughed as she ran barefoot across the dewy grass, her silk dress brushing against the flowers. Guards watched from a distance, their eyes sharp but relaxed. It was a peaceful day, one of those rare mornings when the palace felt almost like a home rather than a fortress. Captain Ryan, the human in charge of the palace guard, moved quietly along the edge of the courtyard. He had been part of this palace for several years, a human among mostly alien and elite royal soldiers. People often underestimated him, thinking of humans as fragile, slower, or inexperienced. But Ryan had proven time and again that his strength lay not in brute force alone, but in speed, cleverness, and an instinct for survival. Today he felt a tension under the calm sky, though he could not explain it. The princess reached the edge of the garden where her favorite fountain sparkled, water dancing in the sunlight. She leaned over the edge to watch the fish swim and laughed softly, the sound like bells ringing in the quiet morning. Ryan's eyes never left her. He had made it his mission to always stay one step ahead, to watch for dangers others could not see. Something in his gut whispered that today peace was fragile. Then it happened. A shadow moved too fast for the eye to follow, and suddenly a group of masked figures burst into the courtyard. Their movements were precise, deadly, and terrifyingly fast. They wore dark armor, their faces hidden behind visors that reflected the sunlight. Each carried a long, wicked knife, the kind designed to cut through the best armor with ease. They were silent except for the faint hum of their weapons as they advanced. "Princess Alara!" Ryan shouted, drawing his sword in one smooth motion. His muscles tensed, his body moving instinctively. He ran toward her, positioning himself between the attackers and the child. The princess froze, fear clouding her eyes. She had heard tales of assassins, but seeing them in person, so close, so real, stole her breath. The masked figures moved as if they were one mind, circling around her, knives glinting in the sunlight. Ryan took the first strike. A knife slashed across his shoulder, pain lancing through him, but he didn't fall. Another knife found his side. The human gritted his teeth and twisted, grabbing one assailant by the arm and throwing him into the fountain. Water splashed over them, but there was no time to pause. The princess shrieked, and Ryan spun to block another attack. A knife nicked his chest, tearing through the fabric and leaving a burning line of pain. He felt blood warm against his skin, but ignored it. His only thought was keeping the child safe. Another attacker lunged, aiming for the princess's arm, but Ryan moved faster, intercepting the strike and slamming the man against the garden wall. His hands shook with pain, but adrenaline pushed him forward. The world had narrowed into one purpose: protect the princess, survive, fight. By the time the sixth knife found him, slicing across his ribs, Ryan staggered but did not fall. Each wound burned, each breath came sharp and hot, but he stood firm. With a final, desperate push, he shoved two attackers back, creating a small gap between the princess and the remaining threats. "Run!" he shouted, grabbing her hand. The princess hesitated, but when she saw the determination in his eyes, she followed. They sprinted toward the palace gates, Ryan using his free hand to parry attacks that came from behind. A knife grazed his leg, and he stumbled but refused to let go of her hand. He could hear the shouts of other guards, now rushing to help, but for the moment, it was just him and the princess against the unknown. Finally, Ryan threw the last attacker off balance with a clever twist, sending him sprawling into the bushes. He turned to see the remaining masked figures retreating. They were gone as quickly as they had appeared, leaving only the strange symbol etched on the ground where they had stood. It was unfamiliar, angular, alien in design. Even wounded, Ryan's eyes narrowed. He had seen many threats, but this one was different. This was planned, calculated, and meant to send a message. The princess, her hands trembling, looked up at him. You saved me," she whispered, awe and fear mingling in her voice. Ryan forced a smile, though each movement shot pain through his body. "It's what I'm here for," he said, his voice steady despite the blood and wounds. "I'll always protect you." They lifted him carefully, murmuring concern as they noticed the blood soaking his tunic. Even in his weakened state, Ryan's mind raced. Who had sent these attackers? Why the princess? And what did the symbol mean? Queen Liara arrived moments later, her presence commanding immediate silence. Her eyes swept over the courtyard, taking in the chaos, the retreating enemies, and then the human who had thrown himself between her child and death. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of shock, relief, and something deeper she could not name. She knelt beside Ryan, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You risked your life for my child," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "Do you understand what that means?" Clever beyond expectation, and willing to face death without hesitation for the sake of others. The palace medics carried Ryan inside. Each step caused him unbearable pain, but he did not complain. He focused on staying conscious, staying alert. Even as the blood soaked the floor beneath him, he kept one eye on the princess, ensuring she was safe. Once inside the medical wing, the medics worked quickly, cleaning wounds, applying poultices, and stabilizing him. They whispered to each other, astonished by the human's resilience. "He shouldn't even be conscious," one murmured. Another shook his head. 6 knife wounds, and he's still moving. Incredible. Humans, she realized, were capable of acts that even the most loyal palace guards might hesitate to perform. Hours passed. Ryan drifted in and out of consciousness, pain racking his body. Yet even in that state, he thought of nothing but duty and the people he protected. Outside, whispers began spreading among the palace staff. "Have you seen what he did? He took 6 knife wounds and still held the princess. Humans, maybe they are more than we thought." The strange symbol left by the attackers had been copied and sent to the queen's advisors. None of them recognized it. It was alien, sharp, and ominous. Ryan, despite his weakened state, studied it as best he could. It was a warning, he knew, not just a threat. The enemy would return, and soon. Princess Alara, now safe in her chambers, refused to leave Ryan's side. "You saved me," she said softly, gripping his hand. "I don't know how to thank you." She knelt, her eyes meeting Ryan's. "You are more than a guard," she said. "You are proof that bravery is not measured by strength alone. You are extraordinary." He had faced death today, and he had not faltered. Outside, the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Shadows grew long across the palace walls. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the enemy watched, planning, waiting. They would strike again, and Ryan knew it. But for now, he had protected the princess. He had faced the impossible and survived. And humans, the queen realized, were capable of miracles. Ryan's world was a blur of pain, cold sheets, and distant voices. He opened his eyes slowly, wincing as a sharp ache shot through his side. The 6 knife wounds burned, each movement reminding him that he had survived something few humans could endure. The medics hovered over him, checking bandages and muttering quietly to one another. Their admiration was clear, but Ryan barely registered it. His mind was already on the princess. "Princess Alara?" he rasped, his throat dry. "She is safe," a medic replied, his tone almost gentle. "She will remain in the royal chambers until we can guarantee no one threatens her again." Blood had been cleaned, wounds bandaged, but the strain of movement made him dizzy. He clenched his teeth and pressed his hand to his chest. "I need to see her," he said softly, almost to himself. Queen Liara entered quietly. Her regal presence filled the small room without a word. She knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have done more than anyone could ask, Captain Ryan," she said. Her voice was steady, but there was a softness in her eyes he had not seen before. "Your bravery saved my daughter." They were small, fragile compared to her alien guards, yet their courage was limitless. Ryan had not hesitated, not even when the first knife cut through his shoulder. He had put the princess first, above himself. That was something rare, something extraordinary. Outside the room, the palace hummed with quiet activity. Guards patrolled more frequently, medics checked every corridor, and whispers spread among the staff. "Did you see what he did?" someone said. "He took 6 knife wounds and didn't even fall. He saved the princess with only his instincts and quick thinking. Humans, perhaps they are more than we believed." No one knew what it meant, and the queen's advisors could not identify it. It was alien, dangerous, and precise. He clenched his fists, silently promising himself that he would uncover the meaning. He would protect the princess again if needed. By evening, Ryan was conscious enough to sit upright with support. Queen Liara had not left his side. She watched him quietly, speaking occasionally, asking about the princess and the attack. Her calm presence gave him a strange sense of comfort. Humans and aliens were different, but she was starting to see something she had never expected. Humans, when pushed to the edge, could rise beyond fear. "Your Majesty," Ryan said after a long silence, "they will come back. Whoever sent them, they won't stop." It was a strange question, one he rarely had the courage to voice. Many in her court treated humans as tools or minor soldiers. Liara's words and presence, however, told a different story. "I trust courage," she replied. And humans like you prove that courage is not measured by size, strength, or species. Each time he awoke, he thought of the courtyard, of the knives, of the moment he had thrown himself in front of the princess. His body was weak, but his mind raced. He needed to know who was behind the attack, what the symbol meant, and how to prevent the next strike. The following morning, Queen Liara called a meeting of her advisors and Ryan, despite his wounds. He was lifted into a chair, the medics keeping him stable, and seated at the table beside the queen. The air was tense. Courtiers, diplomats, and guards crowded the chamber, all eyes on the human who had faced death to protect the princess. One of the queen's intelligence officers spoke first, showing a copy of the symbol etched in the courtyard. "Your Majesty, this mark is unknown to us. It does not match any local factions or known alien syndicates," he said. "It appears deliberate, almost ritualistic." Many looked skeptical, but Queen Liara's eyes never left Ryan. She could see the determination behind his injuries, the clarity despite the pain. "Then we prepare for them," she said. Her voice was steady. "We will not wait for fear. We will act before they strike again." Preparing for an unknown enemy was dangerous, and the palace had not faced a threat of this scale in generations. Some recommended hiding, sealing the palace, and fortifying the walls. Others suggested calling for outside reinforcements. Liara listened patiently, but her mind was made up. "We will act," she said firmly, "and we will act smartly. Captain Ryan, you will advise us. You know their tactics better than anyone." Humans and aliens worked side by side, studying every corridor, garden, and hallway for potential weaknesses. Ryan's mind, though still recovering, guided the defensive planning. He suggested traps, escape routes for the princess, and strategies that relied on clever thinking rather than brute force. Princess Alara watched him from her chambers, curious and inspired. She had always admired her guards, but seeing Ryan risk everything for her, and now seeing him still giving guidance while weak and wounded, filled her with a sense of wonder. "He is amazing," she whispered to herself. "I want to be brave like him. Captain Ryan has earned it today, remember that." Then one evening, a palace scout arrived with alarming news. "Your Majesty," the scout said, bowing low, "there are signs that another strike is being planned. We intercepted communications suggesting that they intend to attack the palace again within the next 24 hours. Yet the queen remained calm, her gaze steady on Ryan. "Then we act now," she said. "We will use every advantage we have. Captain Ryan, can you prepare our defenses in time? They won't expect human ingenuity to be our strongest weapon." Guards moved furniture, reinforced doors, and learned how to use the palace's architecture to their advantage. Every corridor had a hidden advantage, every window a potential trap. Humans, who were often underestimated for their size and strength, became the architects of the palace's defense. Princess Alara insisted on observing. She moved quietly alongside Ryan, asking questions and learning. Each time she saw him take a deep breath and focus despite the pain, she felt a spark of courage ignite inside her. She understood that bravery was more than standing tall. It was facing fear, danger, and even pain, and choosing to act anyway. By dawn, the palace was transformed. Where attackers might expect simple hallways, they would find traps, surprises, and clever defensive strategies. Where they might think humans were weak, they would find minds sharp enough to outthink the strongest adversary. Ryan, exhausted but determined, leaned against the wall of the command room, staring at the plans spread before him. Queen Liara joined him, standing quietly beside him. "You have done more than I expected," she said softly. "Even wounded, you have strengthened this palace beyond what any army could do. Then perhaps it is time the palace, and the world, understood that humans are not just soldiers, but heroes in ways we could never imagine." And Ryan, still recovering from his wounds, knew that when the enemy came, humans would stand fearless, clever, and unstoppable. The palace was quiet in the early morning, but the air felt charged, almost electric. Captain Ryan sat in the strategy room, still pale from his injuries, his hands bandaged tightly. Despite the dull ache that ran through his body, his mind was sharp, analyzing maps, corridors, and the movement of potential attackers. The strange symbol left by the first assault haunted him. Whoever had sent the assassins was not random. They had a plan, and it was only a matter of time before they struck again. Queen Liara entered the room quietly, her long robes brushing the floor. She did not need an introduction. Her presence commanded attention even in a room filled with the palace's finest minds. She had watched Ryan through the past days, seen his courage, his intelligence, and the way he refused to give in to pain. Now she knew that humans were a force the palace could rely on in ways no one had expected. "Ryan," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We cannot wait for them to strike again. If we do, even your quick thinking may not save us next time. Fortifications are not enough. They will adapt just as you adapt. I want action, not just defense. I want us to take the fight to them before they reach our gates." But he could see the determination in her eyes. She would not hesitate, and neither would he. "I understand, Your Majesty," he said finally, "but we must be careful. We cannot predict all variables outside these walls. Their attacks will be cunning. Teach them your strategies, your instincts. Let them learn what it means to fight smart, not just strong." Over the next several days, the palace halls became a place of movement and training. Ryan worked closely with a group of human guards, medics, and even a few servants who had courage and sharp minds. He taught them how to anticipate attacks, how to use their environment, and how to think quickly under pressure. Princess Alara watched from a safe distance, inspired by the energy and determination she saw. She asked questions, observed carefully, and even tried some drills under Ryan's supervision. Her natural curiosity and quick thinking impressed him. "You have potential," he told her, "but courage is only the first step. You must learn strategy, patience, and observation." Ryan's influence had awakened ingenuity in ordinary people, showing that courage combined with strategy was a force that could not be easily defeated. As the sun set on the fourth day, the palace seemed almost transformed. Guards stood ready, staff moved with purpose, and the humans trained under Ryan's guidance exuded confidence. Yet the strange symbol still lingered in everyone's minds, a reminder that the enemy was patient and methodical. Late that night, Queen Liara summoned Ryan to her private chambers. She sat by the window, looking out at the city below. "Ryan," she said, her voice quiet but serious, "I trust your judgment more than anyone in this palace. Tell me, what do you think their next move will be? I want traps they do not anticipate, distractions they cannot ignore, and plans they cannot foresee. I want our humans to be ready to think, to act, to survive under pressure. Can you prepare them? I will not let my daughter live in fear, and I will not allow my people to be caught off guard. Humans like you remind me of what courage truly is. We will act, and we will act decisively." She coordinated with scouts, messengers, and even the palace's technology experts, integrating every possible advantage into their defense. She had learned quickly from observing Ryan that courage without preparation was only half a victory. Strategy and intelligence amplified bravery. Ryan moved among the trainees, his body still weakened, but his mind alert. He demonstrated techniques, corrected mistakes, and offered guidance with patience. Some trainees faltered, others struggled with fear, but under his mentorship they learned quickly. They discovered that even humans of ordinary strength could outsmart opponents far stronger when they combined courage with cunning. Princess Alara participated when she could, and her natural intelligence and curiosity allowed her to grasp concepts quickly. Ryan encouraged her, teaching her how to observe patterns, anticipate threats, and remain calm under pressure. He saw the spark of human courage in her, a spark that could grow into something extraordinary. Meanwhile, the queen arranged for scouts to monitor the city and the surrounding lands. Reports came in throughout the day, shadows moving in distant forests, strange symbols etched into walls in nearby districts, and whispers of alien agents gathering. The enemy was patient, watching, planning. But now they would find the palace ready in ways they had not expected. By the fifth day, the palace humans were ready. They had learned to move silently, react quickly, and set traps that could slow or disable attackers. Guards who had never faced true danger now understood the value of ingenuity and quick thinking. Ryan's training had transformed them. They were no longer ordinary protectors. They were defenders who could anticipate, adapt, and outsmart any threat. Late in the evening, Ryan finally allowed himself a brief rest. He lay in his bed, still weak but satisfied with the progress. He knew the enemy would return, but now the palace was more than just walls and guards. It was a network of minds ready to act decisively. Humans had proven that they were not just soldiers. They were thinkers, strategists, and protectors capable of extraordinary feats. Princess Alara peeked into his room quietly. "Captain Ryan," she whispered, "do you think we can really stop them? They may be patient, but we are relentless." Somewhere beyond the palace walls, the enemy moved, observing, testing, waiting. They believed humans were limited, predictable, fragile. They had underestimated the small human who had thrown himself in front of a princess. And now, they would underestimate an entire palace ready for their attack. Ryan closed his eyes briefly, feeling the aches of his injuries, the exhaustion of days without rest. Yet he felt a sense of pride, not in himself, but in the humans he had trained. He had taken 6 knife wounds to protect the princess, but now he realized the palace could survive because courage had multiplied. Ordinary humans had become defenders capable of extraordinary feats. In the darkness, Liara looked toward the horizon, thinking about the challenges ahead. She had always faced enemies with armies and technology, but she now understood that bravery and intelligence were just as powerful. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of acts that even seasoned alien warriors could not imagine. And as the night deepened, the queen made a silent vow. The enemy would not breach her palace, not while humans stood ready, not while Captain Ryan and the brave people he had inspired guided them. They would face whatever came, not with fear, but with courage, ingenuity, and determination that no force could defeat. The palace awoke to an unusual stillness. Birds were quieter, the fountains less lively, and even the sunlight seemed muted behind a veil of clouds. Captain Ryan, though still recovering from his wounds, moved among the human defenders, checking preparations one last time. He examined corridors, doors, and hidden pathways, making sure that every suggestion he had made had been implemented perfectly. Every human he trained moved with confidence, ready to act without hesitation, their eyes bright with focus and determination. Queen Liara stood in the central hall, her long robes flowing as she watched the courtyard. She did not look worried, she rarely did, but there was a tension in her stance, a readiness that even seasoned guards felt. Humans could inspire courage, yes, but the queen knew that courage alone would not repel the enemy. Strategy, timing, and precision would matter just as much. The first sign came as a shadow flickered across the palace walls. A scout returned, panting and wide-eyed. "Your Majesty, Captain Ryan, they are here," he said. "The strike team, elite, fast, and armed. They move with precision." Princess Alara watched from the balcony above, feeling her heart race. Even with Ryan's guidance and the Queen's presence, fear prickled at the edges of her mind. But she remembered what he had taught her. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Then the attack began. The masked figures appeared at the edge of the palace courtyard, moving swiftly, silently, and deadly. Their knives gleamed, reflecting the dim light of the morning, and their armor seemed to absorb sound, making them appear almost ghost-like. They did not run. They advanced with calm precision, as if every step had been measured, every movement planned. Ryan signaled the human defenders. "Positions," he shouted. The trained staff moved like clockwork. Hidden panels opened, releasing obstacles that tripped the intruders. Narrow corridors forced them into bottlenecks where humans waited, ready to intercept. Pressure plates triggered nets and soft restraints, slowing their progress without causing fatal harm. The attackers adjusted immediately, moving around the obstacles, but they were slower than anticipated. Humans had learned to predict their paths, and every step the enemy took was met with strategy rather than brute force. Queen Liara moved through the hallways alongside Ryan, her calm presence guiding the defenders. She coordinated movements, directed reinforcements, and used her knowledge of the palace to create distractions that kept the enemy off balance. She was not a fighter in the traditional sense, but her leadership turned the palace into a living trap. Ryan, despite the pain in his body, intercepted a masked attacker heading toward the princess's chamber. He sidestepped a knife aimed at him, using the attacker's momentum to throw him against the wall. The human defenders took the opportunity to restrain the intruder with ropes and nets. Every movement was precise, every decision calculated. Humans who had been ordinary just days ago now moved with a speed and intelligence that made the attackers hesitate. The courtyard became a battlefield of wits. Traps triggered, corridors closed off, and every path the attackers thought would give them advantage turned into a disadvantage. Ryan watched, his breathing heavy but controlled. He noticed patterns in the intruder's movement, slight hesitations that revealed fear or uncertainty. He relayed instructions quickly, moving from point to point, a human conductor orchestrating a symphony of defense. Princess Alara observed from the balcony. She had never seen anything like this. Humans, once underestimated by everyone in the palace, had become almost unstoppable. Every time an attacker gained ground, they were met by clever strategy, traps, or decisive action from the defenders. She realized then that bravery alone was powerful, but combined with intelligence, it became legendary. The leader of the strike team finally appeared, moving with deliberate speed toward the Queen's private chambers. His presence was commanding, and his movements suggested he had expected minimal resistance. He paused when he noticed the human defenders adapting to his tactics, slowing him down at every turn. He frowned beneath his mask, realizing that the humans were not just brave, they were unpredictable. Ryan intercepted him in the grand hallway. Pain lanced through his side, but he stood firm, blocking the leader's path. The two circled, one human and one masked warrior, each calculating the other's moves. The leader struck first, knives flashing, but Ryan anticipated, dodging and using the attacker's momentum against him. The human moved with precision, landing a blow that pushed the leader back without causing serious harm, demonstrating control even while injured. The defenders continued to trap and restrain the remaining strike team members. One intruder reached the courtyard, only to find it filled with obstacles, hidden pits, nets, and human guards ready to intercept. Every move the attackers made played into the defenders' hands, each decision guided by Ryan's insight and training. Queen Liara observed calmly. Her eyes never left Ryan, noting the patience, determination, and ingenuity he demonstrated. Humans could be fragile, yes, but their minds, trained and sharpened, made them formidable opponents. The Queen realized something profound. Bravery combined with intelligence could overcome almost any threat. Finally, the leader of the strike team, frustrated and cornered, demanded surrender. His voice was cold, mechanical through the mask. "Yield, Queen Liara. Your humans are clever, but you cannot withstand us forever." Humans are not just soldiers. They are thinkers, protectors, and heroes. You underestimate them at your peril. With a frustrated gesture, he ordered his remaining team to retreat, signaling them to leave the palace grounds immediately. The human defenders, though exhausted, held their positions until the last intruder vanished. The courtyard was silent once more, the air tense with the aftermath of the encounter. Guards moved quickly to secure the palace, checking every corner and hallway for hidden threats. Ryan leaned heavily against the wall, blood still staining his bandages. He was exhausted, every muscle screaming, but he allowed himself a moment of relief. The palace had survived, and the attackers had been forced to retreat. He looked at the humans around him, once ordinary and now transformed into defenders capable of extraordinary feats. Princess Alara ran to him, her eyes wide with admiration and relief. You did it," she whispered, clutching his hand. "You saved everyone again." Intelligence, preparation, and trust, that is what won today. That is what matters. That is what will protect this palace in the future. Birds returned to the gardens, and the fountains sparkled once more. The palace was safe, but Ryan knew that the threat had not ended. The attackers were clever, patient, and determined. They would strike again, seeking revenge or testing the humans once more. Yet, for the first time, the palace felt truly prepared. Humans had transformed from underestimated guards into a network of defenders capable of anticipating, adapting, and overcoming challenges beyond expectation. And in their midst, Captain Ryan had proven that courage, ingenuity, and selflessness could inspire others to rise to greatness. Princess Alara hugged him tightly. "I'm never afraid as long as you're here," she said softly. Ryan smiled, the exhaustion and pain in his body forgotten for a moment. "You don't need me to be brave, Princess," he said gently. "You just need to believe in yourself and in humans. Courage can be contagious." Humans had proven that they were more than just allies. They were heroes capable of changing the course of events, of standing fearless in the face of danger, and of inspiring everyone around them. And as the palace settled into a calm after the storm, Ryan knew that the true victory had not been over the attackers, it had been over doubt. Humans had shown their worth. They had shown their courage, and the world would never underestimate them again. The palace was quiet again, but the air was heavy with anticipation. Captain Ryan rested in his chamber, bandages freshly changed, his body still sore from the fight that had nearly killed him. Even so, his mind was alert, replaying the previous day's battle, thinking of every movement, every decision that had saved the princess and her people. Humans could endure, adapt, and think quickly, but the Queen's presence reminded him that strategy and courage were only part of the story. Leadership could make the difference between survival and defeat. Queen Liara entered his chamber quietly, her long robes brushing against the floor. She did not need to announce herself. Ryan had learned to sense her presence as surely as he could sense danger. She approached his bedside, her gaze steady, eyes filled with a mix of admiration and contemplation. "Captain Ryan," she said softly. You have done what I believed no one could. You faced death to protect my daughter, and you guided my people to victory. Yet even now, I see that your bravery is not enough for the recognition it deserves. You do not fight for recognition, yet your actions demand it. Courage like yours changes the world, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. You showed my people, my daughter, and even me, that humans are capable of greatness beyond imagination. Your Majesty, I am only a soldier, he said, his voice quiet but firm. I was doing my duty. The palace had gathered discreetly in the central hall. Courtiers, guards, and humans trained by Ryan waited quietly, aware that something extraordinary was about to happen. The queen had called for secrecy, but word of Ryan's heroism had already spread through the palace. Many had witnessed his courage, others had heard the stories of the traps he had designed and the attackers he had outsmarted. The hall was filled with tension and expectation as Liara stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. Today, she began, we celebrate courage, ingenuity, and sacrifice. Captain Ryan has proven himself in ways that none of us could have imagined. He risked life and limb for the safety of my daughter and this palace. He has inspired humans and aliens alike to rise above fear. He has shown us all what true bravery means. Princess Alara watched from the balcony, tears glimmering in her eyes. She had seen Ryan fight, endure, and guide others. Now she was seeing the acknowledgement he deserved. The queen continued, her voice strong and unwavering. Captain Ryan, by the authority of this crown, I declare you not only a protector of the palace but a hero of our people. I grant you a rank higher than any other guard, and with it, I bestow upon you the title of Commander of the Royal Defenders. Your courage and intellect have proven that humans are extraordinary, capable of feats that can shape the fate of kingdoms. He had never sought recognition, yet the honor felt meaningful. It was not just about the title. It was the acknowledgement that humans could be more than others expected, that courage, intelligence, and selflessness were qualities that transcended species. He knelt before the queen, his body still trembling from exhaustion and pain. Your Majesty, he said quietly, I am honored, but I only did what anyone with courage and heart would do. I could not have done it without my fellow humans. They stood with me. They fought with me. This victory belongs to all of us. Your loyalty, selflessness, and ingenuity have reminded everyone here that courage is contagious, that strength is measured not just by size or power, but by heart, mind, and spirit. Today, you have changed how my people will see humans forever. Guards who had once doubted the small human now saw him as a symbol of hope and determination. Even the alien courtiers, usually dismissive of humans, looked at Ryan with respect, their previous assumptions shattered. Princess Alara descended the stairs, moving carefully toward Ryan. Her eyes shone with admiration and gratitude. Captain Ryan, she said softly, I am never afraid when you are near. You taught me courage not just by words but by action. You are my hero. Never forget it. The previous threat had been repelled, the alien strike team forced to retreat, and the palace now stood stronger than ever. Yet Ryan knew that vigilance was still necessary. Threats would come again, but the humans he had trained, the trust he had earned, and the courage he had ignited would ensure that the palace could face any challenge. Over the next days, celebrations were held, though quietly. The queen wanted to honor Ryan without drawing unnecessary attention from enemies who might still be watching. Humans were praised for their efforts, strategies, and courage. The palace had been transformed, not just physically, but in spirit. Ryan had shown that humans, though underestimated by many, were capable of extraordinary acts. In private, Liara approached him again. You have done more than anyone could ask, she said. You took 6 knife wounds to protect my daughter, and yet you guided us all to victory. You have earned every honor, and yet you remain humble. That is what makes you extraordinary. Recognition is not necessary, but I am grateful for your words. Others will see that humans are not to be underestimated. You already have it inside you. Ryan continued his duties, though his wounds required careful attention. He trained humans in strategy, leadership, and defense, ensuring that the palace would always be prepared. He had learned that courage alone could inspire, but intelligence and guidance could multiply the impact of bravery. Princess Alara often accompanied him during training, eager to learn, her confidence growing with each passing day. She practiced observation, anticipation, and quick decision-making, guided by the human who had risked everything to save her. She was learning that courage and intelligence, when combined, could accomplish extraordinary things. Queen Liara watched them quietly, knowing that humans had changed the palace forever. They had proven their worth, not by size or strength, but by heart, mind, and determination. She had seen firsthand that humans could face impossible odds, endure pain, and inspire others to greatness. One evening, as the sun set behind the palace towers, casting golden light across the gardens, Ryan stood with Princess Alara and the Queen in the central courtyard. He looked around at the people he had trained, the palace he had helped defend, and the city beyond. "They will not forget today," he said softly. "Humans have shown what they can do. They will remember that courage, combined with intelligence, can overcome almost any threat. For everything, humans are stronger than anyone realizes, and you can inspire others the way they inspired you." The Queen had honored him, the princess had learned from him, and the world beyond the palace gates had witnessed what humans were capable of when bravery, intelligence, and selflessness were combined. And though threats would come again, the palace was ready. Humans had risen, courage had multiplied, and the legacy of 6 knife wounds had shown everyone, human and alien alike, that true heroism comes not from strength alone, but from heart, mind, and the willingness to act when it matters most.